It's been a while. We're going to talk about money again as it relates to the American dream. We have a lot of people in the audience who are Americans, and I know there's a lot of people who do worship the rich. And I want to let you know that the rich do not care about you. You know, without activation, you can't change your desktop wallpaper. You can't come in and customize your taskbar. You can't access any of this stuff here. You'll not be able to change to the dark theme, which is extremely important to me. Some of the other new features through Windows Update you won't get, so you definitely do want to activate. Today's content is brought to you by bobkeys.com. This is where I buy my Windows 10 keys, and every now and then I'll snag a game or something, but I just bought my 7th Windows 10 key here for Windows 10 Professional. You're going to get 25% off the prices you see here using coupon code TS25. So this is Windows 10 Pro, 25% off that. You want Windows 10 Home? Also, if you want to get a bundle with Microsoft Office and Windows 10, you can get that. Got all kinds of things, 2019, just lots and lots of things. Oh, this is a double 2PC. After you purchase your key, you just click up here, click on User Center. You click on My Purchased Orders. Just click on View Keys and Codes. Then in the middle of the page, you'll see your product key. Just highlight that. You're going to want to copy this, then press the Start button on your computer, and then type Activate. You'll see activation settings. Just go ahead and click on that and change product key. Paste it here, then click Next, and you will be activated. So again, thanks to bobkeys.com, TS25, head over there. The links are all on the top of the description. The whole trickle-down thing that happened thanks to Reagan in the 80s is a lie. To move your wealth from the people who are in the middle class and lower class up to the upper class, because that's their friends. I mean, it's cronyism plus a whole bunch of other things. But right now we're getting a lot of articles out there from trusted, reputable sources when it comes to money, and I'm talking about stuff like Bloomberg here. And they're telling us that it's okay. The American dream of owning a home is dead. But check this out. That may be so, but a nation of renters is not something to fear. And then right here, this article, America should become a nation of renters. Now, this article is to condition you to sell your property, and there's a reason for this. You're going to start seeing this from a lot of financial publications. They want you to sell everything that's yours. They've already moved you from owning like records and tapes and CDs over to like renting your stuff or using iTunes or Spotify and paying a monthly fee. They've moved you from buying DVDs and Blu-rays and physical media over to renting and like paying for things on Amazon or Netflix, paying monthly fees. They've moved from allowing you to buy games outright, going to buy big boxes and stuff in the store, and even buying stuff on Steam. They're trying to push that over towards services like Xbox Live or whatever, the Game Pass and all those different things where you pay a monthly fee. They don't want you to own things because that's not the maximum way to extract money from the poor and move it up to the rich, because they need more money. They've got 7 houses and they need 8. Don't you understand? They need it. But there's a problem right now, and that is hyperinflation thanks to COVID. In 2020, they printed more money than in the entire history of printing dollars. That's a weird sentence, but you get the idea. So they printed more in that 1 year, but it hasn't crashed yet. Now, why is that? Well, the Fed has kept the interest rates at 0. So there hasn't really been any big issue, and they've been inflating even more. So whenever it looks like, okay, this is getting bad, we're in a downturn, but, in order to make things look good, no one cares if people are starving. Nobody cares about bread lines. Nobody cares about any of that nonsense. All they care about is how the stock market looks. So they print trillions of dollars and they give it to the richest people. They bail out whatever banks need to be bailed out. They bail out a few big industries. They bail out some airline companies and stuff like that. They bail out their friends and give them the money. But they know that this is going to come to a head. So the Fed said that they might actually raise the interest rates in 2023. And if this is way over your head, I'll tell you what that means. That means that right then at that point, all of this nonsense, we've been living in this fake economy, it's going to come due. And guess who's going to pay for that? You are going to pay for that. Unless you're part of the 1%, they want to make sure that you are going to be the ones paying for that. And they're using stuff like Bloomberg here to indoctrinate you, to get you to do the thing that you shouldn't do. They want you to move your assets and take a nice big chunk of fiat. Get your USD right now. We're going to read through some of this. If you're wondering why my Bloomberg is black, I use stylus up here, and I have Bloomberg dark enabled. And if ever you scrolling down and it's like, oh, there's more to read, but you have to sign up or something like that, you can just use a JavaScript toggler. So I'll go ahead and toggle that just in case. So I'm going to read through some of this article. There's a few things I want to highlight here. But the main point is they're trying to normalize the idea of you getting cash, you turning your illiquid asset of your house into cash, because they know that in 3 years, if they give you 500 grand, they give you 300 grand, it's going to be worth half that when inflation catches up. You know, we've had like 12, 13% inflation right now, but when this really catches up, it's not going to be worth anything. So what's going to happen is all the rich people who are buying up these houses that they're telling you to sell so that they can buy, they're going to have all of the equity, and you're not going to have anything. You're just going to have a pile of cash that's now worth half of what it was before. So you have to rent that back. But thanks to inflation, they're going to be like, listen, we signed a 2-year contract on your house. Economy's not so good. Your bills are going to go up. Your rent is going to go up $400 a month. So yeah, we know your mortgage was $800, but you know, now it's $1,400 for rent. I mean, you chose to sell it. You know, you got the equity, and they're also going to give you this line that a lot of conservatives like to throw this around, especially the ones who haven't really woken up to the fact that the rich are taking all their money, the ones who worship the rich and always like praise the rich for being like capitalist geniuses and like, oh, they work so hard and all that stuff. They're going to say things like, well, the rich people are taking on all the risk. The risk of owning that house, the risk of owning that property, the risk of what if the water heater explodes? Do you want to deal with that? The rich people are taking on all the risk. Those heroes, where's their capes blowing in the wind? They've only doubled your mortgage, no big deal. What they're really trying to say is, hey, it's dangerous. We don't want you to risk becoming wealthy. We don't want you to risk having a decent life, because then you might not serve us as well. We need you to be the cogs. We need you to clean our toilets. We don't want you to risk not doing that. They're not looking at the underlying systems that are keeping people poor, and they're not looking at the fact that when FDR said that everyone should have, a decent, that the minimum wage should be like a decent wage, he didn't mean that it was going to be like the actual absolute minimum. He meant that it would be the minimum for you to have a decent life. And that's not what we have anymore in America. So let's see if I can find a few key points in here. I'm just going to skip around and read a few different paragraphs because each paragraph has its own little nugget of mind fuckery. So this one here just says, let me get to the screen. It says, a nation of renters could lead to, oh, make it bigger so you can see. How about that? Yes. A nation of renters. Can I highlight this? I guess not with this thing. A nation of renters could lead to a world where location decisions are driven far more by personal preference and life cycle demands. Younger workers might prefer the excitement of the city. A couple just sharing a family could reunite with their parents or siblings in a small town. So this is another mind thing. Like your house really, you've got this equity. It's tying you down and you're living in a shit area. Like you've got this, but you're stuck with this house. If you just sell it and get rid of it, then you can go rent in a city where we have these big high rises that the billionaires are building for you. And I remember what I was saying a second ago about like the risk and everything, and like people saying like, oh, they're taking all the risk. Well, the rich people aren't even really taking that much of a risk because the way it works is they're so wealthy. They don't put their own money into building these giant high rises and stuff downtown. What they do is they go to the bank and they get loans. And when you're uber wealthy, and I know this because I've worked for a lot of uber wealthy people, just it's kind of a coincidence. I lived in some areas and I had tech jobs, but that's a story for another day. But there's something that they call good debt. And good debt's not something that a lot of people who are not in the 1% even think about. Like there's no such thing as good debt. And like, oh yes, good debt is debt that you take on that's working for you. So they have like, they've got $1 billion in the bank. But they don't want to spend $1 billion building a building downtown, so they go to the bank and they're like, "Listen, I'm good for it." And the bank's like, "Oh, of course we'll give you $1 billion to build a building, and that's going to cost you like 150 grand a month to pay it off." And they're like, "Great." So they build this building, and for maybe a year, it's costing them. It's considered bad debt because it's costing them, but those buildings fill up with people, and now they're making 250 grand. So they're actually realizing $100,000 in profit. That's good debt. They have the debt, but they're just, all that's happening at the end of the month is they're just taking 100 grand off the top. I mean, there's not a lot of risk there. And the thing is that when they do it on a big enough scale, if it collapses, they just run to the government and say, we did it bad. And the government's like, did you do it bad? You got a boo-boo? And they're like, yeah. They do this in a straight face. And they're like, oh, you poor thing. And they just give them money. That's literally what happens a lot of times. Or, I mean, they just run and they scream, bankrupt, bankrupt, and they just leave it alone. And they write up, bankruptcy. I mean, look at how many times Donald Trump has gone bankrupt. That guy is... He's a garbage business person, but for some reason people keep throwing money at him. I don't know. Maybe it's maybe the hairdo. Like it messes with people's brains, man. I think it's really funny here in one of the first paragraphs they talk about liquid assets like publicly traded stocks and corporate bonds. They earn they earn what's known as a liquidity premium. So they're talking about that, and they're like, and you get dividends for holding them. And the more liquid an asset, the higher the premium goes. And so they're kind of like saying like, oh, stocks and bonds, like maybe you sell your house, put it in stocks and bonds. But at the same time, they're like, wait a minute, we don't want retail investors. That's what they call people who are poor, who put money into the stock market, like the GME folks and stuff like that. They don't want them there because it's difficult to manipulate the market as easily if regular people are not working with hedge funds and other billionaires. So at the same time, they're like, right here, they're like, on the flip side, that's blah, 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 that's dangerous. The prices collapse. Oh, God. They always use this sort of stuff. They're like, just stay out of the markets. So what they want is like a serfdom, essentially. They want to be the lords, and you are the serfs. They want you to think that you have freedom, but because you can pick any job you choose. They don't tell you that when you get to the job, it's a totalitarian society where, one person or just a few people at the top makes all the decisions. And if you have anything to say about it, you're out. So as much as you love democracy, you go to work in a totalitarian state, as it were, like your little corporation that you work for is essentially a miniature totalitarian state. You have no say in what you can do with your life. And so if you don't like that, you can quit your job. And if you're very lucky, maybe you can go somewhere else and find another job that will treat you like maybe less like dirt, more like clay. I don't know if that's a good thing or not, a good analogy. So why am I talking about all this stuff? Why am I bringing all this up? What's going on here? Let me just say a few more things about this, and then we'll move on. But I also want you to know that you're going to see over the next few years, wealthy companies. I know some huge hedge funds are going into areas and they're buying up all of the inventory of houses that's on the market. Like we're talking hundreds of houses, and they're buying it for 20 to 50% above the asking price because they know in a few years that equity is going to be worth way more than the money that they spent on it because of what's happening with the US dollar and inflation. They don't want the US dollar. They do not want it. So that should, number one, scare you when it comes to the US dollar. And number two, that should make you think twice when it comes to getting rid of any equity and exchanging that for US fiat. Unless you're going to put that money into cryptocurrency. I am not a financial advisor, so all that stuff. I think cryptocurrency is going to be a safer option when it comes to hedging against the dollar. Like right now, they're buying all the houses to hedge against the collapsing dollar. But cryptocurrency, now why is that? Well, if you look at the big coins, they're not inflationary. Like Bitcoin is not inflationary. Some other coins, like Ethereum, is going to be deflationary once they move to Ethereum 2.0. And a lot of the new coins coming out are deflationary. Binance Coin, Binance Smart Chain, Binance Coin, a lot of those on the Binance Smart Chain, a lot of those are deflationary, meaning that as people buy them and use them, there's fewer and fewer coins or tokens. So what are the dangers of moving your money into cryptocurrency? Well, the prices are probably going to crash sometime in the next few months. I mean, they've already crashed a little bit, but it might go back up. It's hard to tell, but I'm thinking it's going to go back up before September, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm like 70% sure. But it looks like it'll probably crash after that. So you'll have to hold for the long run. And in my opinion, if you were to take out the money you have on your house and put it into Bitcoin right now, in 3 to 5 years, you'll probably have a lot more than you did. So that's, and it'll also be hedged. And I don't think Bitcoin is going to become illegal or anything like that. Maybe in some places like if China has a hard time getting their digital yuan out, maybe they're going to get angry and be like, stop using Bitcoin. We're angry about it. We want to use the digital yuan because we can track everything you can do, and we can set expiration periods on the coins you have, which is something that the technology has. And a lot of other governments around the world are going to look at this and think it's a genius idea, like having your own digital currency. And when you need to stimulate the market, you send everyone an email or a text message, and it's like, listen, 1,000 of your coins or 1,000 of your digital Fed tokens or whatever are going to expire at the end of the month if you don't spend them. So you better just go out and spend them. That's something that's literally going to happen. So stay away from the big countries' coins if you can. And I don't think they're going to make Bitcoin and Ethereum and stuff like that illegal in most parts of the world because the rich are using it. But they are trying so hard to shake out the poor people. They don't want you investing. Because if you're investing and you're holding too many, they can't move the markets as much as they want to. They like to be able to push them way up and then sell, and then push them way up and then sell. And they can't do that if there's too many retail investors, i.e. poor people, people who use over-the-counter, stuff or not over-the-counter, but they use like regular online services like Coinbase and Binance and KuCoin and all that sort of stuff. They don't want you in their market. But if you stay in it and you hold, historically, it just goes up. I mean, it goes down and down and down, but it goes up. You know what I mean? Like, if you bought Bitcoin and you got all excited in 2017 and you bought it when it was all the way at its main high and it's like $11,000, you're like, oh my God, I'm going to get in. And you like put, $10,000 or $3,000 into Bitcoin, it would have crashed and you would have been like 3 years of like, oh no. And that's because you didn't understand the market cycles. And I think there's a lot of people out there who did that. They saw it and it was like, it's so hot and it just goes up and up and up forever. And they're like, it never goes down. They're like, yes, it does go down. It goes up like this, And then it went down for a few years because that's the way the market cycle works. It's a 4-year cycle with Bitcoin and most other coins because they follow Bitcoin. But if you bought it the absolute peak in 2017, right now you would be up by 3x. So it's like, even if you bought it the worst time, just as it goes forward into the future, if you can just hold, then it will be okay. I don't think that's a really feasible thing for a lot of people to sell your home and put it into Bitcoin because, how are you going to pay your monthly payments and stuff like that, and especially if you're renting. So I'm not advising anyone to sell their house. I just, if I had money for a down payment on a home, I would put it into cryptocurrency instead and just hold it for a few years. And even if it went down 50%, I would know in a few years it'll go up 200%. It's just the way it seems to work. I'm not a financial advisor yet again. I'd throw that in there. But that's what I would do. And that's kind of what I did back when it was like really, really low the last few years. I just would grab a couple Ethereum here and there whenever I could. And that's kind of why I haven't been making a million videos, is because, I can keep that going. And the other thing that you can do with your cryptocurrency is you can stake it. But this is not a video about that. But staking essentially allows you to kind of lock your cryptocurrency. And then as people use the chain, your coins are used for verification purposes, and you collect a percentage of those fees. Some of the coins out there offer 10 to 20% of staking per year. That's way better than what you're going to get with a bank, like 0.04%, 0.09 if you're with like a credit union or some like super hip thing like that. And you never shut up about people never shut up about credit unions. So what is my ultimate takeaway from all this? I don't think that the regular people are going to make it through this okay. I think we're going to end up moving to, like Bloomberg said, into a renter society. I think a lot of people are going to panic sell their homes. If you go onto Redfin right now, if you go onto some of the other things like Zillow and stuff, if you have a home, a lot of times they'll make you an offer right there on the website. This is new. This is something very new. And they'll be like, listen, you got a house? We'll give you more money than it's worth. We'll give it to you right now. You don't have to do an inspection. You don't even have to clean. Just get the hell out of there. Or you can stay and we'll rent it back to you. But they're like being like these nice. They're being nice about it. They're like, oh, we're saving you from all of this owning, and now we're giving you some liquidity. Like, you've been poor all your life and you've inherited this house from your parents, but now you can have liquidity. Isn't that wonderful? So at least the people watching, maybe you'll be able to like look at this and see it for what it is. I think most people are not. And I really do think that, well, the American dream is obviously dead. The dream of owning home, obviously dead. The dream of making something of yourself, unless you're like connected or extremely corrupt. I mean, go to like a Republican state and make friends with the the local governments and stuff, and they'll start changing rules for you because that's what they do. Maybe you can make it that way, being extremely dishonest and that sort of thing. But it's going to be very difficult unless you're really into exploiting people. It's going to be really difficult for anybody out there to move from, I guess, their income range to a different income range. The mobility is just not there anymore in America. So I kind of feel like America is going to be over. It's not going to be the world power, and that's going to be a big struggle when it comes to like China and India taking over. And that's also going to be a weird world when that's what's in the driver's seat. So what am I going to do? I don't know. If I can figure a way to move somewhere, I will, because I don't see that as running. A lot of people are like, you coward, you're run away from the problem. And I'm like, yes, I'm going to go somewhere where I can have a chill life. Like whether it's somewhere in Europe or somewhere in Asia, Taiwan or something, if China doesn't grab Taiwan, I don't know. I don't know. So, and I don't see anything wrong with that. If you have the means to do so, the means to go somewhere else, this is the only life that you have. So, you could stay here and struggle for your common people. If you have like really good friends here who can't leave, stay and struggle. I'm not really connected too well to many things here. So I don't know what I'm going to do. But I don't see life getting any better here for people. And it's kind of sad to watch. And I don't exactly know who to fight until everyone stops worshiping the rich people. Because I feel like if I was to show up and like be like, we need to fight the rich people, I'd have a huge army of nerdy libertarians or something be like, stop. They're providing the world that you live in. You think you could live without Google and Amazon? Well, fuck you, man. So I'm like, I have to deal with those idiots still. This is a bleak video. And cheers. But the one thing that is nice is like just the people that exist. The people who watch the channel, people I see online, the people I know. There's some really cool people out there. And it's like, we have to live in this mess. It's, COVID really came at a bad time because it also came at a downturn. Combined everything together. It's, I don't know. So let me know how you feel about like this kind of stuff. Do you have a house? Are you willing to sell it right now? Why are you going to sell it if you're going to? Are you going to sell it to one of these companies, one of these hedge funds, one of these real estate conglomerates? Are you going to sell it to one of them and then rent it back? If so, why would you do that? What are you going to do with the chunk of change they give you? Are you going to be able to turn that into 3x by the next few years? You got some harebrained scheme. You think it's okay to like look for other places in the world to live? Like New Zealand, Portugal's way up there on my list. Not a lot of the middle of Europe. It's getting a little strangely, I don't know. Everybody needs somebody to blame these days. So a lot of turmoil in that area. I don't know. Anyway, that's the end of the video. Yes, I sponsored this video too. I had to do a capital. You can't be anti-capitalistic without actually participating in capitalism. That's the rules. You have to sell a commercial. Even if you're gonna condemn capitalism, you have to sell a commercial so that you can eat and drink designer coffee in a designer mug that you can buy on epicpants.com. There you go. And you can also get one of these mice over there. So do yourself a favor and spend the money that you make from selling your house on some of these quality goods over at epicpants.com. All right. Bye, everybody. I'll make a video on nerdy stuff soon, but this is the only thing that really caught my attention. I think it's something pertinent for everybody out there, even though people don't like to talk about this kind of stuff, like to pretend it doesn't exist, because it taints the artistry of things. And it's also not about tech, and that's the only thing we're allowed to talk about, right? So